Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here today. I wanted to talk a little bit about the current energies and what you may or may not be feeling or may not be aware that you're feeling. Um, I think I mentioned in my last video this energy that we had really been releasing and let's say reclaiming, rebuilding in terms of the Divine Mother. So releasing out these dark feminine energies and then seeing the release actually from the earth of the essentially the crux of the control energies within what I always see is the earth. Obviously, our cosmic system, right, is made up of these celestial bodies, and uh, I see our energy fields, our bodies, as being no different. We are a sphere of energy. This is always how it appears to me. So, um, and the fact that we have to relate to the earth in this way through the same, let's say, principles of how energy runs and works in order to exist here. So, one of the things I have been noticing is that, yes, it's wonderful that these original energies we have access to again. We can start to reconnect to them. But this is an immense healing process that is going on right now for the divine feminine tones. And again, it's not being a woman. We all hold these principles. So even if you are in a male body, you would be feeling parts of this as well too. Although I think the degree to we're all at different ranges and things like this, and the degree to which we're aware or we actually feel is going to vary. So it's not to say that everyone is going to be experiencing this, but to know that what I had been seeing a couple weeks ago too was just how deeply the divine feminine energies, and I'm not saying again just through the human body, but it's like the principle of creation has been raped and pillaged in a very brutal way. And so for a period of weeks, we were kind of going through this process of recognizing that and feeling that within the body. And what's come about in the last week or so is this deep pain and this deep sadness that I've noticed a lot of people have been experiencing. And we're trying to attribute it to certain things in our life. And of course, for most of us who have been on the twin flame journey too, we kind of automatically say, okay, this is the deepest pain I've ever felt, right? Is this kind of unrequited love or this kind of this back and forth dynamic that goes on with the soul relationship and things like this. So we can find parts and pieces of it there, but really the crux of it is within. And, where I've been feeling it very much, of course, is in this womb space, in the belly, in the abdomen, all of the ruckus that's going on there. But certainly over the weekend, I kind of broke down for a couple hours. It was just this immense sadness and grief that came over me that I could not necessarily pinpoint, right? It wasn't coming from a physical event that happened, anything like this. But as I've been sitting with it over the last few days, it's becoming more and more clear, and I'm getting more and more messages about how this is really the recovery of this tone and what that means for us. It's not just about, okay, now we have the tone. It's now we're having to release out everything that has been in the place of that true tone, right? And feeling and experiencing, almost re-experiencing the horror of what has been missing. And almost like feeling this hole inside of us. Because to me, I get the image, right, of, when you're a little child and your parents come home and you're so happy to see them, right, if they've been out and been away, when we're younger, it's like we still look forward to them returning to us. And it's very much this feeling of, yeah, I knew you were going to come back, but when you do come back, to be held in that embrace feels so wonderful. And also at the same time, it's like if they're, let's say, it wasn't the best experience while the parents were away, right? Something happened, a sibling broke a toy, or, the animal did something, or, ate something, or bit someone, or something like this. It's like you, within that embrace of the parent returning, there's also the, oh my God, and while you were gone, like the release then, because you're now in the safety of this hold of this embrace. So these energies now are releasing within that nurtured embrace in this space. And it's a really awkward, I would say it's not something I've ever, and how could we have ever experienced this kind of release before, right? So I had all these intentions of things I wanted to accomplish today. Monday is like my first day back. The kids are in school. It's quiet. And so there's a lot of things I wanted to do. And yet could not sleep at all last night. The messages, the energies were just coming one after another. And of course, it's one of those energies where I thought, oh, I'm going to remember everything because it's so right here in my mind at the time. And so many things I don't write down and then they're just gone the next day, which I know is a product of, we say astrology and the planetary alignments, and yet if we think about it, right, these celestial bodies are here, they are aligning to assist us. It's not a coincidence that, and of course it's, again, different for everyone based on, let's say, their chart or their mission or their path or their blueprint, right? We're all kind of dealing with different things, and yet that surge, that force that comes from the interaction of these energies and these bodies is here to support and to assist us. And the more that we can understand that this is not something that is happening to us, it's something that's happening for us to move through and to release and to heal. I think the more gracefully and the more easily we can move through this experience, because it's not about just being happy and in the light all the time. It really is not. We have to feel these feelings and these emotions. It's not to drown in them. It's not to play victim to them, but it is about needing to recognize where in our own life we have been unconsciously holding into these patterns. Of course, we weren't able to see them. We weren't able to understand them. Things are becoming more and more clear now, where we are consciously able to engage and work our light through these experiences that we've had in the human realm. And yet, it still comes with a bit of an adjustment. This is kind of a shock. Everything that we're feeling, everything that we're experiencing. 2020 was supposed to be this, here we go, we're out of 2019 and out of the mess. But as I said last time, this is a real rehabilitation period, especially for those who are feeling called into, serving and helping into the light work. So I think it's come, like I said, it's a bit of a shock. It's a bit of, it's like, when you've had a cast on a leg for a very long time, it's like you look at it and it's horrific. Like the leg has shrunk, it needs to be rebuilt, the muscles need to be strengthened. Yes, the bone has healed, right? But what were the consequences of that healing time that was required? Right now we need to rebuild and rehabilitate through these energies. So, and again, I just want to emphasize too the importance of, oh man, I don't even know the best way to say this anymore, but checking in internally every day, monitoring this and using this as your weather station, right? Not checking the outside weather reports, the outside energy reports. It's, yes, we've got energies moving and colliding and congregating and interacting to assist us, to benefit us. And yet, what does that mean? How does it translate specifically for your planetary body, for your own field? That is what is most vital, because we are living our own lives here, right? This is about us. If it was supposed to be about someone else, I would have incarnated as that being, but I'm not. I'm here in my body. And this is what is most important and where my focus should be. So every day for me, I'm learning. I had some setbacks still, of course. Not sleeping last night was a bit of a challenge today. Like, how am I going to now reorder my whole day to fit what I need to fit in and to accomplish what I need to accomplish? And yet still be gentle with myself along the way and not fall into those harsh patterns that we have learned in order to survive here through these systems. I wanted to put a label on that, but we'll just leave it at that. The inorganic systems. So I was going to say something else about that, but I lost my thought process. So yeah, I do also want to mention there were a couple things that I noticed. One of them is that, I don't know if it was necessarily this past weekend, but the weekend before, noticing how greatly my sensitivity has increased. hearing things before people even say them. But also, one of the consequences of this too is noticing how what it's really showing me is the boundary line between my own field and where energies are coming in. So I had a couple of experiences. There was a couple of days where I was like, I couldn't listen to anything, couldn't watch any videos, couldn't, like, the information was just like nails on the chalkboard in my ears. It was just like something was screeching constantly. So I had to kind of take some time away. And when I did pop into a couple of things, what I noticed was how much I could see and feel the programming through the messages. So, and programming is even, it doesn't have to be like, oh, it's AI, all this kind of stuff, but even through each individual, even through myself too, right? I have my own things that I'm dealing with. I have my own things that I'm releasing through. So sometimes some of what I say it's more heavily weighted in that direction, right? Because these are my issues. This is my humanity coming through. But noticing where, and again, I just say the word ego, and it's not the arrogant ego kind of thing. It's just that's the human aspect, right? That is not, let's say, fully kind of resolved into its spirit connection, let's say, or awareness of being source fully. So I had an experience where someone was speaking about something in my astrology chart. And at first I thought, this is really accurate. And this is something, what she was mentioning, I was like, you know what, this is really something that I feel like I'm powering through, because she was talking about, and I'm not, right? I don't know anything about astrology. I couldn't tell you anything about my own chart, but she was just describing this scenario. And I thought, yeah, I could see where that could be a thing, right? But what I noticed was that the way that the direction from which she was speaking did not fit at all for me. And at first I thought, yeah, I could see what she's talking about, because I'm totally taking the opposite stance of what she was saying, which was essentially, not to feel like a victim with all of the spirituality and things like this. And I thought, yeah, that's really what I've been working through, is to pick myself up once again and to kind of take what I've learned and not feel like, oh, my poor life. It's really, as I've said, it's every day now needing to be aware and understanding how the energies are really affecting me, but taking a different way, a different stance, a different perspective for my own self about how I'm going to now move forward in my own life, knowing what I know, having learned what I have learned. And yet, when she made this comment about, you have to be very careful about not being a victim, and my after all was said and done, I really dropped into this state of, like, I just noticed my energy really dropped. I dropped into a little bit of a state of a depression. And I thought, because I was questioning myself, right? I thought, well, but am I doing that? Like, is this where I'm coming from? Whereas she was saying it, I was really feeling like that was not accurate. That was not true. But I was surprised at how there was just this dip, and I really thought, oh my God, my whole world is coming to an end. I haven't learned anything. I'm still acting like a victim. And then I had to stop myself, and I thought, oh my goodness, this person, and it's not just this person, right? This is just what energy does. People speak things into our field, and it doesn't have anything to do with us. It has to do with their perspective, with their interpretation, what they have seen, right? And this individual didn't even know me, right? So it couldn't have anything to do with me. And yes, I understand there's tendencies through charts to behave in certain ways and things like this. But when we are really deeply kind of involved in our own light work and in our fields, and we're being as conscientious as we can be, right? It can sometimes feel like a blow to have these things said, or we listen to all these YouTube videos, right? And people are saying, oh, this is going to happen and that's going to happen, and be careful of this, and all these tarot readers and things like this. And just because it's our sign, it's like, oh, is this what I'm doing? Is this what's going to happen? Oh, third party situation, like how we can freak out just from hearing these things being spoken. But the whole point of this is not, it's not about astrology. It's not about any particular person. It's about the fact that this is what these energies do. And this is now where we have to start to draw this line, which says, I am working on myself. I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I may not have a full perspective of it yet, right? But this is where my independence lies, in my own examination and my own awareness of myself, and where my emotions flare up and where my feelings come to the surface, because those are just markers about what's going on in my energy field, right? I am not my emotions. I am not necessarily even the responses that I have to these emotions. That is all just the distortion of the energy that comes through, that we are clearing out. But the responsibility that we have to noticing these things, right, in ourselves, that is what, where this lies. This is the work that we are here to do for ourselves now, especially over this next coming year. But again, it's to be aware of, as empaths, we say, oh, I can't be around people because they blah, I pick up their energy, I did all these things. And I'm starting to not really see it as that. I'm starting to really see it as us who we do not know our boundary. We say boundaries, right? As if it's like some physical thing we have to place. To me, it's not necessarily that. It's how in tune am I with my own light? How much of a relationship do I truly have with my own self? And when I don't want to say, because this has such a negative connotation, but when we enmesh within our own light, but again, right, we enmesh with other people, we enmesh with other energies, we enmesh with other, let's say, celestial planetary beings, bodies. It doesn't have to be a person. It could be our work. It could be other things like this. When we are pulled out to that, which is what we tend to call codependency, right? That is more important. That thing feeling better is more important than my own self feeling better, not wanting to disappoint, not wanting to whatever. Or I think if I put my love there, I'm going to get love back from there, right? So these are all the ways that, especially for these divine feminine tones right now, that are kind of coming back to her, where she's recognizing and saying, holy shit, like I have been directing so much energy out there. But again, unknowingly, it's like we couldn't really see or understand the effect that it was having, right? It's like, yeah, we know I know something is off, and it's because it's obviously not giving me what I want, or it's not bringing to me the things that I'm truly desired, right? Like I'm actually unhappy. But we couldn't see, let's say, the mechanics of it, right? Like it wasn't appearing to us. But now we're starting to feel incensus. Like I said, it's like I would just open up this thing and I heard someone say something and I was like, oh, my ears started buzzing. And I'm like, this is not me. I'm not going down this rabbit hole with them. I'm not going down that path. I'm going to focus on myself and my energy. So, a couple things. One of them is that we really have to, and not that we have to, right? It's going to happen to us whether or not we want to. And if we're in the place where we're supposed to be recognizing this now, we're going to feel the effects of it. So it's not like, oh, you need to go out and do this and start noticing. If it's not affecting you, then it's not kind of coming up for you to really start to put your attention to. But for many of us, it is, we're feeling the ramifications of going external, looking external. But the other part of that does come back to this divine feminine rehabilitation now, where it's been, again, a lot of grief and despair for unknown reasons, these deep feelings of loss, missing, a lot of it because it's not just about being separated out from our own light. It's the greater collective separation of the earth, the greater collective separation as well of source from, I'll just say, any kind of cosmic, again, being, whether it be, individual light form, body being, or a planetary being. We are feeling the effect of that rupture and that separation. Sometimes we talk about these Armageddon timelines or the cataclysmic events, or, this kind of the soul split, right? Twins will talk about this, which doesn't necessarily resonate with me at all. But you can imagine, right? If you were actually split in half, that this is kind of what this would feel like. What is going on? Like, I don't know where this deep wound comes from. We don't have any conscious memory of actually being split from something, or splitting in half, or, even, I would imagine the birthing process, being born, though, is similar, to this ripping apart feeling that lies within our subconscious, that lies within our DNA. It is within the cells, and yet to our mind, we can't really comprehend, because, again, these traumas are, they kind of go subterranean, right? They go hidden, because that's how the brain technically works, supposedly to protect us, right, from these memories. But so, yeah, it's just to watch, where if you're, again, to me, it's like, I feel like it's almost like, I remember someone saying one time, if you start using your opposite dominant hand, because over time, right, your body develops these tendencies, and the muscles on the right side obviously get stronger for me, right, on this side of my body. And they said, if you were to start using your left hand for all these typical things, just grabbing the door, brushing your teeth, your body will naturally start to balance out. And so what I've been noticing is this is really how it feels. It's almost like, instead of turning right, I want to turn left. Instead of getting out of that side of the bed, I feel like I should be getting out of this side of the bed, but it is a rebalancing. And I said in my last video, I think one of the things I noticed was this left hip of mine. It's like, it's been so unengaged from my body for who knows however, probably maybe even all my life, right? But unknowingly, and now it's like suddenly this pain is coming in to remind me. I'm having to consciously sit and realign my body and to re-engage this side of me, which has just been kind of limp. And I don't think that's any coincidence. I think that absolutely has to do, again, with what I just call this divine mother principle, this origin connection to our creational tone. So if you have been feeling any of these things, this was just a video to kind of, say, hey, this is what I've been experiencing, and the way that it's kind of manifesting for me. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else. Yeah, I do just want to mention, because there's this energy, again, I'm just feeling into this energy of reconnecting to the self. On my other YouTube channel, I think I posted it yesterday or maybe the day before, I can't remember. Some of the things that come through these meditations are a bit shocking to me. They're not things that I normally think about or that come to me just kind of while I'm moving about my day. One of the things I thought was so significant was talking about, again, these programs. We talk about programs kind of being installed, or the inception point, either when we're born or who knows when a lot of these things come in. But one of the things that came through that channeling was the instilling the installation, but it's instilling the program into the body. And to me, what this means, as I was interpreting it, was that, okay, we have the program there, but instilling something means kind of this repetitive reminder over and over again, right? To deepen this connection to this program, to continually reinforce this program. So to me, this meditation that I've been doing, and I'm actually thinking I'm probably going to start trying to do it on a more regular basis. I've been recording them live, not publicly, just so that I don't have to upload. It saves me a lot of time. But I am thinking I may start doing this on a more regular basis and just making it live, which I don't know. I don't like, because then there's a lot of noises when I move around, and for meditation, that's not the best thing. But what I'm finding is that to sit in these moments of connection with these energies, really that come in. And it's not to say that, oh, these are like beings that are coming in or anything like that, but when you connect into your own space, it's like I've always believed, this was one of my favorite sayings, it's like you take, you know, a quarter of a step and the universe comes in like the rest of the 3/4 of the way to meet you, right? So this is what it feels like to me. It's like just show up and just sit to receive, and then all of this energy starts to come in and build. And the fascinating thing that I am starting to realize about this is that it's not about necessarily learning to quiet the mind, right? It's about giving space to your light and to your energy body to remember what it is like to be without these programs. I've always said it's a bit of an unbecoming process, right? We're unbecoming the programming. This isn't about training the human to be a better human or to, you know, be more precise or to be a better participant in society, right? This is about giving space, and it's almost as if the cells open up, right, to release all this gunk and this garbage that is in there, and they tune and they synthesize to this, what many people would call like the quantum field or something like this, right? But it's this 0 point, this refresh point. It's the origin of your energy. And so the more that we can now, we talk about sitting in stillness, right? So instilling the peace codes, the codes of peace and the codes of stillness and the code of promise and hope and faith and things like this, which are positive qualities, right? Rather than, sorry, am I banging? Yeah, it looks like this camera is shaking. All these kind of negative programs. But it's attuning the body to be more and more comfortable in that position and that energy charge, right? I don't want to say a charge because it charged the neutrality of the stillness. Because this is not something that the bodies are comfortable with. It's not something we have been trained to do. From a meditation, a wellness perspective, you know, we hear this all the time, right? Learn how to be still, learn how to sit with yourself and these kinds of things. But to me, it's not any of that. It's about allowing the systematic programs to uninstall, allowing the space to even be aware of where these things are occurring, right? So even as a lot of us are feeling this grief and sadness, the awareness of that, not going into, let's say, addictive behaviors to squash that or suppress that, but to sit with it and just allow it to rise up. You know, this is where these things start to release. And if we say, okay, anytime there is an awareness, to me, that is the beginning of the solution to the problem. You wouldn't have an awareness come up if something was not an issue. So the very fact that you're having an awareness about it means that the healing is already starting to roll. But it's up to you. Are you going to take it to the next level and allow it to actually release? So when we can sit and allow these energies to flow in, to allow it to release the old, right? It's not sometimes even having to become aware of what are all the pieces and puzzles? What do I need to solve? What do I need to heal? But it's to entrain the body, to entrain the field, to be within this space of peace, to make that natural and normal and comfortable. Because for most of us, it is not right now, right? And we are defaulting, and that's, I think, what a lot of people are starting to recognize about how much we default to the fear, default to the worry of the things that these programs are creating. So, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Those are, on my other YouTube channel, and hopefully we'll be doing more of those in the coming weeks. So, all right, again, I just wanted to deliver some I'm just really feeling this through the heart. I don't see a whole lot of people speaking about how significant this is, actually. I know I've seen people talking, oh, Divine Feminine, she's in fear, she's freaking out about things, and and I also have to say, I'm kind of seeing, and I don't think that's really applies to anyone probably who listens to this channel, because if you actually sit through these videos, thank you, first of all, by the way, but also you have to be kind of on a different path to sit through these messages, because I know they're not exciting and, oh, union is coming kind of thing. And that's really what I wanted to say, is there seems to be two different camps right now, where one is still focusing on the external, which would be even the twin and things like this. But those of us who are really feeling this internal call now, feeling the grief of having to process through these energies. And this is, to me, this is right where we should be, because of what I've seen planetary wise with the energies. There's just an energy here in the heart that is like so powerful right now. I just wanted to bring in this message of reassurance, that this is not you not getting it again. Because this is something that I had kind of felt over the weekend, was this, have I learned nothing? Here I go again kind of thing. But this is, as I sat and as I allowed the wisdom, to kind of, I made space for the wisdom, essentially, let's say that. And this is something we are all capable of doing, rather than reacting now to these energies. And I think this is part of where it's becoming more and more important to set aside some time as well for ourselves. And I know it's challenging when we have responsibilities and we have to get up and go to work and do all these things. And yet that it's, as I said, even with these meditations, right, it's about providing the space for the wisdom and the knowledge that is innate within us to start to flow up, to give us different answers, rather than following that pattern response we may have been, living out for our entire life so far. So, okay, I'm going to leave this here. I wish you all so much peace, so much love. Thank you for being here and experiencing this, because it's vital and it's important, not just for ourselves, but the messages that have been coming in lately too is about, I've never been much of a community person, just because of my experiences with groups, even in the physical. This isn't just like the crazy Facebook spiritual groups, right? But even in the physical, it's been challenging for me, because it always felt good to connect with what felt like like-minded people, but then eventually there would be some weird undertone that would start to come up that I just felt very uncomfortable with. And so it's always made me kind of back off, and I would say that deep, intimate connections are few and far between for me. But the messages that I have been getting recently is that there are those of us, though, that are deeply connecting in this way, that are deeply feeling this, that are even beyond what is maybe in the mainstream spiritual community. So to know that you're not alone, there are some of us who are experiencing this as well. And it's really taking on this deeper level of communion with the self, which is, and I'm not a fan of kind of this enlightenment path, this like devotion to, like, however you want to call it, right? This kind of Christ light or things like this. Like, that's never really resonated for me. And yet there's something about this energy now that is just so deep and so passionate and so much a calling, a return home. It is a little bit frightening right now. And that actually is something I probably should mention. I know I keep ticking on away here with the minutes, but because I don't know if I mentioned this in my last video, but this is that a lot of what I was seeing over the past week or so was also the divine masculine energies that are coming in that people were really struggling with. And I think this is probably where a lot of the grief was arising from, and why we were kind of confused about what's going on here. Is it the twin? Is it, all this anger, all this frustration, sadness, grief, things like this. Because to me, the structure has always looked like a masculine tone to me. So, but this is also, it's not just connection to masculine energy. This is the galactic lineage as well that's coming in for rehabilitation also. That's another thing too. It's not just, the planetary, sorry, like, oh God, all these things. I need to really start writing so that this doesn't all come in these kind of conglomerate things here, but the codes that are here on the earth are, I've always said, what we're doing here has much, much farther reaching implications than just Earth. It has to do with other planets and systems as well. And so this is part of what we're feeling as we're starting to receive this energy. We're starting to feel into the destruction that may have occurred in our galactic lineages as well, and the healing that we need to it's really about embracing the healing, right? It's not about the work that we have to do. It's about allowing the release and allowing the healing to come through for ourselves. So this is all a part of that as well. And it's really we say, well, what are you want to be a sovereign being, you want to be a light being, but what are you willing to give up in return, right? And are you willing to do the work that requires? And this is part of that work, is that now we're starting to feel beyond even just the earth realm. We're feeling into other things as well. So there's a little bit of, or there was some resistance over the last week in terms of like, I don't want to feel this I don't want to have anything to do with this other or anyone outside of me coming from this direction, right? That has anything to do with the opposite sex or however your relationships show up for you. This has been a bit of a wrestling thing that's been going on over the last week. So, keeping that in mind as well. But again, we continue to move deeper. It continues to be this, I keep getting these messages of going into the unknown, right? Because we have not necessarily done this. So we need to take the time to kind of pull it apart a little bit to understand what's really going on, and not, again, to follow our program responses, our usual patterns and behaviors. Temperance is so important right now. And this is one of the lessons that I'm really learning, is that, when I feel that anger, I just want to reach out and I want to text someone and I want to say whatever just to make myself feel better. But it's having to take these steps back and say, okay, what has that gotten me in the past? Really. And really, is this behavior and these responses, these triggers, what is this serving? So, it's a longer range mirror that is showing up for us now, for us to see our reflection in. And again, it's not about being wrong, being victims, being, shaming ourselves for any of this, but it's to surrender. And again, to me, it's the surrendering into the nurturance of these energies that are coming in. And who would have thought, oh yeah, nurturing is such a wonderful energy. I of course want to sit in that all the time, but nurturing allows you to sit, and it allows you to release, and it allows you to heal. And that's something that, we're having to learn to accept as part of the process, not just let's heal and get it over with and now let's move on, right? It's a continual, and I would imagine it's going to be continual as we continue to move deeper and deeper into these energies. So, all right, again, I wish you all so much love. Thank you so much for being here. Have a good rest of your day. We'll talk soon.